WIBTA for refusing to let my late brother's ex move in with me, even though she claims my nephew is actually mine. This situation is so surreal that I can barely wrap my head around it. I never thought I'd be in a place where I'm questioning whether my nephew might actually be my son. So, here's the full story. My older brother, Alex, passed away a little over a year ago. It was devastating. Alex and I were close, and losing him has been a huge void in my life. He left behind his girlfriend, Sarah, and their son, Luke, who's now 5. Alex and Sarah had been on and off for years, and their relationship wasn't exactly stable. They'd split up several times before, but they always seemed to find their way back to each other. Still, despite their rocky relationship, Luke was clearly Alex's pride and joy, and I stepped up as an uncle, spending time with Luke and helping Sarah when I could. Since Alex passed, though, Sarah's life has been pretty chaotic. She's struggled financially, bouncing from job to job, and she's had some issues with substance abuse. I've tried to be there for Luke and support him however I can. Recently, Sarah reached out to me saying she's in a bad spot, she's about to be evicted and has nowhere to go. She asked if she and Luke could stay with me temporarily, just until she gets back on her feet. I was hesitant from the start. Sarah and I don't have a great history, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to get that involved. But I still care about Luke, and if he's in trouble, I want to help. Just as I was considering her request, Sarah dropped a massive bombshell on me. She claimed there's a chance Luke isn't actually Alex's son, but mine. Apparently, during one of the times she and Alex were broken up a few years ago, Sarah and I had a moment. It's embarrassing to admit, but I barely remember it. It was a weird, hazy night, and I never thought much of it afterward. When Luke was born, I assumed he was Alex's son and never questioned it. But now, Sarah is saying that, because of that night, it's possible Luke is my child. Needless to say, I was completely thrown. Here I was, already unsure about letting her and Luke stay with me, and now she's telling me I could be Luke's dad. Part of me feels like this is coming out of nowhere because she's desperate for a place to stay. I mean, why bring it up now, right as she's facing eviction? I've been trying to think rationally, but it's hard. If Luke really is my son, then I feel like I have a responsibility here. But on the other hand, I'm worried Sarah's just using this to guilt me into letting her stay. I told Sarah that before I make any decisions, I'd want a paternity test. She didn't take it well. She told me I should want to help no matter what, and that a test shouldn't even matter if I actually care about Luke. She accused me of being heartless, and now she's making me out to be the bad guy to some of Alex's friends and even some of our extended family. They've been reaching out, saying things like, "How could you turn your back on Sarah and Luke when they need you?" And "Alex would want you to help them." I've tried explaining my side, but no one seems to understand. It's not like I don't want to help. I just don't want to jump into something that could become a permanent arrangement if Luke turns out to be my son. Sarah has a history of making poor choices, and I can't ignore the feeling that letting her move in would lead to a never-ending situation where she becomes completely dependent on me. I don't want to end up being responsible for her if she can't stay stable, and I worry that she's just going to keep leaning on me without making an effort to change. Some family members are saying I should take them in just in case, since Luke might be mine, and it wouldn't be fair to turn him away. But others agree that it's unfair of Sarah to demand this without proof, and that I should set boundaries until I know the truth. The whole situation feels so messed up. I feel like no matter what I decide, someone's going to end up hurt. Would I be the bad guy for telling Sarah no and waiting until we have a paternity test? I want to help, but I'm torn between doing what's best for Luke and not wanting to be manipulated. Part of me worries that if Luke is my son and I say no, I'll regret not being there for him. But if he isn't, I'd be letting Sarah take advantage of me and possibly dragging myself into something that I'm not ready for. I don't want to be heartless, but I also don't want to be used. Update 1 week later. First of all, thank you to everyone who commented, offered advice, or shared their own experiences. I've been reading through all the messages, and I appreciate the support and the different perspectives. I wasn't expecting such a huge response, but it's been helpful in making me think about the situation from angles I hadn't considered. So, here's the update. After thinking it over for the past week, I've decided to go ahead with a paternity test. I didn't make the decision lightly, but I felt like it was the only way to get clarity on the situation. I reached out to Sarah and told her that I wanted to get a test done before making any decisions about her and Luke moving in. Sarah wasn't happy about it, but I was firm. I told her that while I want to help her and Luke, I need to know the truth before taking on that kind of responsibility. At first, Sarah was furious. She accused me of doubting her and being too cold-hearted to help out my own nephew. But I held my ground. I told her that if Luke is my son, I'll take on my responsibility as a father. But I can't just move forward with something so significant without confirming the facts. She seemed to understand that part, but I could tell it was just an excuse to delay the real conversation. Now, here's where things got even more complicated. After I told Sarah I wanted a test, some of my family members began calling me, questioning why I'd even asked for one. Apparently, they've all been talking behind my back, and a lot of them think I'm being heartless. One of Alex's close friends, who I've known for years, even told me I was dishonoring Alex's memory by not stepping up immediately. He said that if I cared about the family, I'd take them in regardless of the paternity test, because it's what Alex would have wanted. This stung a lot. I loved Alex, but I don't think he would have wanted me to make decisions based on emotions or guilt. I tried to explain that I was doing this to make sure I wasn't making a huge mistake and putting myself in a position I wasn't ready for. I want to do the right thing, but I also need to protect myself. I've had people telling me that this could become an endless cycle where Sarah depends on me for everything if I let them move in. And frankly, I agree with them. She's always struggled to stay stable, and I don't want to be stuck in a situation where I'm the only one holding everything together. So, with the paternity test ordered, the ball is in Sarah's court. She's been silent for the past few days, which is a bit concerning. I've reached out to her to let her know the details and to assure her that I'm not abandoning her or Luke. But the silence makes me wonder if she's hoping I'll change my mind and just let them move in without the test. I also want to clarify something that's been coming up in the comments. Some people have been asking if I've considered the emotional impact this will have on Luke. Yes, of course, I've thought about that. But I can't ignore the fact that if Sarah is lying or manipulating me for a place to stay, I could end up in a very unhealthy situation. And if Luke is mine, I want to make sure I'm prepared to be a father and not just thrown into it without making a clear, informed decision. This is a big commitment, and I don't want to rush into it because of guilt or pressure from family. In the meantime, I'm staying firm on my decision for the paternity test. I'll keep you all updated once we have the results. I'm honestly hoping the test will provide some clarity, because right now I feel like I'm stuck in limbo. Edit and clarification. A lot of people are asking if I've considered the possibility of Luke just needing stability in his life regardless of paternity. I understand where you're coming from, but the main issue here is not just about being there for Luke. It's also about whether or not I'm being manipulated into stepping into a role I'm not ready for. If Sarah is truly struggling, I want to be there for them, but I need to know I'm doing it for the right reasons, not because of some false narrative or because I'm being guilt-tripped. I'll keep everyone posted. Thanks again for all the comments. Update 2 weeks later. So, I wanted to give you all a quick update on what's been happening since the last post. First off, thank you again for all the comments and the feedback. I've been reading everything, and while some people still don't quite understand why I'm being so cautious, I truly appreciate everyone's thoughts. Here's where things stand now. Sarah finally agreed to the paternity test after a bit of pushing. I think she was hoping I'd just drop it, but I made it clear that I wasn't going to move forward with anything until I knew for sure what the situation was. After some back and forth, she eventually agreed, and we scheduled the test. It was a weird, tense process. The moment we set up the test, she started acting a little different, not so much angry, but more distant, I guess. It was like she was trying to distance herself emotionally in case the test didn't go the way she wanted. The paternity test took a few days, and during that time, I heard from a few more family members who were still upset with me for dragging this out and not just doing the right thing by taking Sarah and Luke in right away. I get that they're worried about Sarah and Luke, but I still feel like I'm doing the right thing by waiting for the results. I love Luke, but I don't want to be in a situation where I'm stuck raising a child that isn't mine, or worse, stuck in a situation where Sarah is depending on me long term when I'm not ready to take on that role. A few days ago, I finally got the results of the paternity test. And, well, it turns out that Luke is not my son. The test confirmed that he is Alex's biological child, which, honestly, I was relieved to hear. I feel like I can breathe again knowing that I'm not about to become a father out of nowhere. But at the same time, there's a bit of guilt. I always thought of Luke as my nephew, and now I know that's exactly what he is. It's not like I suddenly love him any less, but I feel like I've been carrying this weight for no reason, wondering if I'm about to find out I've been a father this whole time. After getting the results, I sat down with Sarah to talk about it. I told her that I was relieved, but also that I had no obligation to take them in based on the circumstances. Sarah was surprisingly calm about it. I thought she'd be furious or try to guilt me again, but instead, she just kind of nodded and thanked me for getting the test done. She said she had already figured out the result, which was strange to me. I'm not sure if she was just saying that to save face or if she knew all along that Luke wasn't mine, but I didn't press the issue. Now, about the living situation. Sarah's still asking if she can stay with me, even though I've told her no. She's trying to make it sound like it's a temporary thing, but I honestly don't know if I want to open that door. I've offered to help her find a shelter or look for other places to stay, but she hasn't been very receptive to that. It's clear to me now that Sarah is struggling, and while I want to help, I just don't think I'm the one who can fix things for her. I don't want to be trapped in a situation where I'm the only one trying to make it work. I'm trying to be firm with my boundaries, but it's hard when she keeps bringing it up. I've been talking to some friends and family about it, and they're still divided. Some say I should just help because Sarah and Luke need me, but others say that if I do, it'll be a never-ending cycle. I don't want to make any decisions based on guilt, so I've told Sarah I can't give her a definitive yes at this point. Clarification. I know some people have been asking why I'm making such a big deal out of just taking them in. It's not about not wanting to help Sarah or Luke. It's about the fact that Sarah hasn't shown any signs of stability, and I don't want to be pulled into a situation where I'm her sole support without her putting in the effort to get herself together. I care about Luke and always will, but I need to be realistic about what I'm capable of. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to help Sarah without enabling her, and I'm hoping that with some time and space, she can get back on her feet. I'll update again once I know what direction this is going in, but for now, I'm just taking things one step at a time. Edit. A lot of people have been asking if I've considered just letting them stay temporarily, even without full commitment. I've thought about it, but I'm really not comfortable with opening my door without knowing more about how Sarah plans to get back on track. I've offered to help in other ways, but I don't want to let this drag on indefinitely. I'll keep you all posted.